Welcome to Every Night is Game Night, where two busy dads get games to the table by any means necessary. Check us out, along with other great podcasts, at dicetowernetwork.com.
Every Night is Game Night, episode 102, GenCon Reviews Part 2, Games That Tell Stories. Hey everybody, welcome back to Every Night is Game Night. This is Anthony, once again with Jason.
Yo, my peoples, what's up?
Alright guys, we're back with Part 2 in our Mega GenCon Review Gauntlet.
So many parts, man.
so many. Parts. We're still sitting at 6, but you never know. You never know what gets added to the end there. So.
That's right. So today we are arcing up a little bit in complexity, but just a little bit. Last week was about fillers, pure fillers, 30 minutes max. I hope you enjoyed, and got some recommendations from there. This week we actually have some pretty hot games, and we grouped them all together under the rubric of games that tell stories. I stole that very explicitly from Ignacy Trevicek's blog, that's what the blog is called. We are reviewing one of his games, which is Detective. But all of these games on one level tell some kind of story. So we wanted to go ahead and bring that to you. But you know how we roll here on ENGN. We are going to get to Liz with the Liz We Trust segment. Liz, tell us about an awesome Kickstarter project.
Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and I'm here to encourage your Every Night is Game Night acquisition disorder. This week I want to talk about the second edition of Pax Pamir, designed by Cole Worley, the designer of John Company and Root. Pax Pamir is set against the backdrop of the Great Game between the Russian and British empires, but Europe is not the focus of this game. Instead, you represent an Afghan tribal leader, and you are trying to secure your own power and dominance after the collapse of the Durrani Empire. To achieve victory, you will purchase cards from a central market, then play them to unleash armies, build roads, and deploy spies. In the multiplayer game, you play semi-cooperatively. You're part of a coalition that must work together to survive, but you'll also all be eyeing each other to see who can be the ultimate winner. In the solo game, you'll pit yourself against an AI opponent designed to give you a real run for your money. Pax Pamir is a second edition printing and seems to have some significant differences from the first version. I never played the original version of the game, so I don't know what I'd be missing. But I know I'm excited to try this one, especially because it is the result of a designer bringing new knowledge and hard-earned experience to an earlier project. I also love the theme. If you're into games with interesting historical perspectives, Pax Pamir might be one for you. Happy gaming!
All right, so hopefully that was an awesome Kickstarter project. Like we said, we never know. She surprises us every single time. Okay, but in Liz we trust, so I guarantee that it is worth at least a look. Okay, so we are going to get into some games. We are going to start with the lightest of these games, I think. It is a game that came out, was Kickstarted, but then picked up by Renegade Game Studios. This is Spy Club.
Yes, Spy Club just launched at fully over the summer, and I helped out with a preview of this way back when it was on the Kickstarter, so got a chance to play it early on, and have since then played the final version, and they're more or less the same. The game here is, there's a core game and then there's a campaign that we add on towards the end. So I'll run real quick through the rules of the core game. It's a very basic game, like Jason said. It's pretty straightforward. And then the campaign is where the real meat and potatoes is, I think, of this for people who are really getting into it. The basic idea of the game, though, is you have 5 different card types. You are trying to collect sets of these different card types as a group. It's cooperative. You're solving a case. You're all a bunch of kids running around the neighborhood, and you're trying to figure out, whose mom stole the dog's skateboard or something. I don't know, like something silly like that.
Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys, baby.
Yes, exactly. It's these kinds of mysteries. So there is no murder, there is no drugs, there is no sex and or rock and roll. It is all stuff you would find on a Disney afternoon cartoon show. The 5 things you're trying to figure out are motive, location, suspect, crime, and object. They're these big tarot-sized cards, fantastic artwork. They're also distraction cards. That's a 6th type of card. They clog up space a little bit, but you can also use them to some degree if you're trying to stop the culprit from messing with you too much. each of these cards is double-sided, and so you're going to be doing a lot of things. You're going to be flipping cards, you're going to be spending tokens to draw cards, you're going to be trading cards with each other, which is a huge part of the game, shifting focus to get idea tokens, and then confirming clue cards when you can to put them into the main tableau at the top of the table. Once you get 5 of the same type of clue up there, that aspect has been solved, and you move on to something else. You can only have one aspect.
Yeah, so like 5, so an aspect would be color-coded, right? So you're collecting sets, like the motive would be, what color was the motive? I forget. Like blue or something? So like, so you collect 5 blue cards.
Yeah.
You're not actually solving a mystery here, you're collecting 5 blue cards.
Yeah, it's a little abstracted to a certain degree. I mean, you're definitely not, there's no overarching story in this base game. It's very straightforward. And then alongside all of that, every turn there's going to be a movement card. The suspect's going to move along the escape tracker. Bad things can happen as they go. You can lose clues. You can flip cards. You can move extra on the track, stuff like that. And the goal is to complete all 5 of these sets before you run out of cards, run out of ideas, the suspect reaches the end of the tracker, or you run out of movement cards. So like any good co-op, there are many ways to lose and only one way to win. Each game's 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how long everybody wants to think. And that's about it. Pretty straightforward, not a lot of text, kid-friendly. I was excited about it just because it is a co-op mystery game, at least thematically, without the blood and guts that make it so I can't play with my children. The campaign, though, is where the real winning part is. This is the stuff that everybody's really excited about. The campaign takes 5 games, matches them together. You don't have to do them all at once because that would be pretty long. And then from each game to the next, some parts will carry over. There will be, the one aspect gets saved from each game. You're trying to get the 5 aspects all figured out across the whole campaign. But there's also new rules, some story bits that unlock each time. Nothing's really scripted, so it's always pretty different, but it is highly replayable. And in a single campaign, you're only going to unlock 4 of the 40 modules. So you only play like 10% of this, and it might even be a different kind of mix and match. I really, really enjoyed this. I liked it when I first played it. I liked it even more when it was final. Thematically speaking, we're going to talk about some much more thematic mystery games as we get through this episode, but I like it. It's really cute and fun and family friendly. It's not necessarily easy, but it's not hard because of mechanics that are hard to wrap your head around. It's more of just, family level hard, where it's just the game kind of beating you up a little bit. And at the same time, it doesn't really handle that alpha gamer issue. Not many co-ops do, and I think for a family-friendly one, you really don't want it to because kids are going to need help here. But that is something to keep in mind if you're going to play this with other adults. So I think this is a pretty solid game. I really enjoyed it. Jason, I know you have had a chance to play this since the last time we talked about it. What do you think?
Oh, you're revealing secrets over there. we didn't air that last discussion. That thing's in the can. Oops. Anyway, yes. So we talked about a little bit. I was like, oh, I got to play this game. It sounds like so much fun. I played it, and I mean, you mentioned before about like you can play this game with adults, or if you play this game with adults. I don't think you can quite do that unless people are just going to be really forgiving. Okay, so it's a very abstract game. Like I was not prepared for how abstract it is. Like you are not solving cases. You are collecting sets, and there's a simple mechanical like thing that lets you, go from your personal tableau to the main tableau, and there's stuff that gets in the way, fine. But there's no deduction here. Like it doesn't matter that you are, you find the button or you find the the mom card or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. You're collecting sets. So a little bit disappointed by that, but I get that it creates the replayability because, you can, and it creates that sense of like, you just tell your own story. Like, okay, you put the 5 cards together that are the actual like things that just resulted from the game, and you tell a story off of that. So, okay, fine. One of the big problems I have with the game is that collecting sets gets very difficult towards the end, more difficult than I think it needs to be. I should probably put it that way. So, when you're collecting, let's say you have all the sets available to you and you have all these cards, like, so you put 4 purple cards in the top row, but then you get a whole bunch of blue and you get no purple. It's like, all right, I'm just going to change to blue, collect the blue, and then move on with my life. If you have one color left and the deck isn't giving you that color, then you're kind of stuck. And you're just letting the game play itself until you get that last card. And it's just, especially in a low player count game. Let me specify that. So you do get more cards in a low player count game, but it's not that many more. And man, I had it's the same thing I have with Mice and Mystics. On a lesser extent, the same thing I have with Stuffed Fables. I want these kid-friendly games, these campaign games to be just really fun for adults too. And I just think it kind of falls short. I know you said you did not have that problem though, right?
I didn't. Yeah, and you mentioned like the lower player count. That might be part of it. Like I haven't played like a 2-player game with this, and it does, like you said, it mitigates a little bit. There's more cards out there, but if you have 4 people playing and they all have 3 cards in front of them, and you can swap cards back and forth plus pulling from the top. I guess there's just enough options. You could at any point in time have 5 cards just in front of you, all 4 players, and then work from there. Whereas if you only have 6 cards in front of you, less of an option maybe. But that's not to say we didn't cycle through the deck a little bit. I'm sure we did to some degree. I just don't remember being frustrated by it to that degree.
Oh,
but I do understand your point about it being abstract. Like thinking about it, I was like, oh, thematically this is amazing, but at the same time, that's just about as deep as I ever go on theme. Is like, it looks great. I like the ideas. The artwork's cool. I don't really care how it manages that thematically. I care about the mechanics, and this is kind of fun and enjoyable, and a little bit lighter than some of the other ones in this field. So, I think that's where I fall, and I think, I think it works on that level.
Yeah, it's a cool theme receptacle. Like it enables it's almost like an improv game where it'll give you like 5 words, like random words, like okay, monkey, light bulb, shovel, and then let's make a story out of it. And you play the game and you generate those 5 words, and then you generate the story out of those words. And this what you're generating is helped by art. And then in the campaign, which I agree the campaign is much better, just play the campaign. It gives you more stuff to play with, kind of messes with the rules a little bit. So I think that's cool. Mechanically, at 4 players, you have 12 cards. At 2 players, you have 8. That makes a big difference, I think. In terms of your personal tableau. Man! I think I have just high standards. It has to be my standards.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I honestly thought you'd like this one. It's surprised when you said you didn't. But I understand at the same time, like it doesn't have the thematic depth that I know you're used to. I don't have.
I actually wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that I didn't like it. I mean, it had a frustrating piece. I would play it with my family. Like I play Mice and Mystics with my family. Like I dragged on it, but I will still play Mice and Mystics with my family. I still play it in like a therapy setting, whatever it is. I will still play Stuffed Fables. I will play Spy Club. It's just for me, my enjoyment, like I'll play anything. If you enjoy it, I will play it. And this is better, it leads the pack a little bit on that. But like for me, my experience of it mechanically, I was a little bit disappointed.
Yeah, that's fair. And, we can't go too much detail into the campaign. We mentioned it a couple times. It is really cool. If you know somebody with the game, it's definitely worth checking out. It is one of those games, though, and I would agree with you. I don't know how many times I would play this, just pull it out and play a game of this. The campaign is definitely where it's at for me at this point. So it is worth giving a shot.
Yes, it is. It is worth giving a shot. That is Spy Club. From Renegade Game Studios. Okay, so I'm going to compare 2 genres of games. Anthony, I don't believe you've had a chance to bust into either of these. This is Choose Your Own Adventures from Z-Man Games and Graphic Novel Adventures from Ryder Games.
I have done 1 chapter of both. So
wow, gotta work on that follow through, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I took one of the graphic novels with me on a trip, and I had it, and then I thought I lost it, and then I found it when I got home. I was like in the pocket of my suitcase, so I did not have a chance to finish it as I had planned. And then the Choose Your Own Adventure, I started it, and I was loving it, and in just, GenCon. So right. I will finish that one eventually.
Right. So this is Choose Your Own Adventures. It looks like it's going to be a series. This first one is called House of Danger. And then the graphic novel adventures, what they both have in common is that they're both Choose Your Own Adventures. If you have nostalgia for this genre of literature, because it's really books, then you're going to know what I'm talking about. But if you don't know anything about this, these are games, that you start them, but then it finds a way to guide you through these different choices. So there's always like either a mystery or something going on, and you're going to run into a panel with, if you're reading the graphic novels, or a paragraph if you're doing the choose your own adventures, where you get a choice. Okay, you are reach a fork in the road. To go left, go to page 84. Go to right, go to page 115. And it's going to weave you back and forth. You make all these choices, and horrible things happen to you because there's a lot of dead ends in these things. So they're very, very similar, but I'm going to talk about them separately because I think they both have different things going on. Okay, so let's start with Choose Your Own Adventure, the Z-Man game. So this game is basically a deck of cards. I think like Time Stories called itself a deck-exploration game. That's kind of what you're signing up for here, is a deck-exploration game. So this game's a big deck of cards, over 200 cards with a branching story about going into a house of danger. Can't really give you too many more spoilers than that. So you're going to go in, you're going to make choices about what cards to read. So like if you reach a choice, you might have to read card 76 or card 118. Sometimes if you make certain choices and you do have a character, you do have stats, and if you are able to make certain checks, then you might be able to pull from the separate deck of cards, which is the clue deck, which is kind of advanced cards. Like, okay, you find a secret tunnel, or you get a premonition about what's going to happen in the future. So that's a little way that the game kind of wrinkles up their gameplay as well. What's the game part? The game part is basically a small board that has 2 tracks. The first track is your psychic meter. That's the good thing. The higher you are in this track, and you're going to get higher as you kind of encounter certain things, you're going to get more stuff. So like you get better premonitions, or you get more insight into a choice or something like that. So you're going to want to explore pretty good to get that track nice and high. The bad track is called this danger track. This is where the game comes in, quote unquote, which you're making checks. Let's say you have to, you see a dog, you have to, fight it or whatever it is. You roll a die and you add a bonus depending on who you are. It's like if you have a gun, you add 2 to your roll. And then the danger track is the threshold you have to meet. So it starts nice and low. It gets higher as you get into it. You can die. Dying is not a big deal in this game. You just go back a panel. you lose whatever it is, you keep on going. So that's kind of the game part of Choose Your Own Adventure. A family-friendly, family level type story. I'll get to that part in a second. Graphic novel adventures work very similar. It is a graphic novel, so you get comic book panels. This is definitely 14 plus. In terms of the age, you're going to see a little bit of blood. You can see a little bit of violence, mature themes type thing. I don't think there's any nudity, but definitely mature themes in terms of the violent stuff. So there's 5 that came out. I've played all 5. And same rhythm, you're going through the different chapters, and you're following numbers and everything. I found it more involved because you have to kind of observe the panels because they hide numbers in different places. And if you miss the numbers that are hidden, then you miss the whole clue, or you missed a way to unlock the end. And you cannot do that in the Choose Your Own Adventure one. Choose Your Own Adventure had pictures, but just to illustrate, like the choices in that previous one come out of just the reading. Here, there's a lot that's in the panels, and you have to really pay attention. There's 5, and they all kind of do a different thing. So the first couple are kind of straight. You make a character, and depending on what your stats are, you have different choices available to you. If you're a strong character, you get to make these choices, blah, blah. They start to mix it up with the third one, Loop Guru. Loop Guru, you can actually, has this like mini combat system where you can fight multiple times and lose hit points and, you block attacks and everything. So you really felt like you were building up a character, which I thought was really effective how they did that. Sherlock Holmes, which I think you would enjoy, Anthony, very much because you're a case solver. That was good. It actually had good cases. Like you go interview suspects and you ask them certain questions, and, go to panel this if you ask them this question. If you ask them that question, you can't talk to them anymore. I think you'll really enjoy. I really want to see what you think of Sherlock Holmes.
I've actually played. This is the one I got, and I did the first case. So I've not gotten very far into it, but enjoying it so far. Yes.
So then the last one, Your Town. You're building a town. Like instead of building up your character stats, you're actually building up a town on this grid and everything. It has this weird, wonky thing. I don't think I'm spoiling too much by saying this, but I think just to give people a heads up. You're like a gunslinger. And the way it replicates gunslinging is to, like, you see a character on the page, and you hold your pencil up and you drop it. And if the pencil hits the character, then you've shot him.
That's clever. I like that.
You're shooting a person. And I missed a lot, and it was unfortunate. I'm terrible at this stuff. But it's a lot of variety in the graphic novel adventures. I mean, I think your guys are kind of getting a sense of where I'm going with this. I love the graphic novel adventures. The choose your own adventure, it was okay. Like, it adds a die roll, and that's the game part. Like, I kind of get a little bit of a heckle whenever, okay, we're gonna make this a game, let's add dice. I mean, I just don't feel like that makes a game. And then there's like points where you could roll ones, and then if you use an item, you lose the item. And, you know, I mean, I get it. You're just, it's a way to wrinkle up the story, but that's what it is. It didn't feel like a game, and it just felt like I was kind of at the mercy of stuff. The graphic novel adventures don't have dice rolling. I mean, there's this, I think one of them had like a simple way to do that, but that was all based on your powers of observation, all in your logical deduction, all on the way that you kind of engage with the story. Especially the Sherlock Holmes one, you really had to like apply brain power to solve the cases. There were 4 cases there. I solved one of them. The first one, the easy one. I got the other 3 all wrong. Challenging, fun, engaging, good. Oh my God. I want more. And my writer's going to give us more. Choose your own adventure, family. Just play it with your kid. Actually, I played it with my wife. She did not like the story at all. Something weird happened right at the end of the first chapter, and she's like, nope, I'm out. Nope, that's too dorky. Nope. If you know the choose your own adventure stories, they get pretty kind of sci-fi and, you know.
It's super cheesy. Yeah, it's B-movie level.
It is B-movie level cheesy. Like, that's what you're in for. It's family. That's what it's for. I mean.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, like I said, I did the first part of this. I haven't done a ton of it, and it was enjoyable, but I feel like it was driven pretty heavily by nostalgia. So I obviously haven't been driven to go back and finish it quite yet.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, the graphic novel adventures, once I started, I had to finish. I had it. It was a page-turning, fun, just so good. All of them. So mature, adults, I'm in for all of them. The choose your own adventures, I think if I had an audience that was into it, I would go into it. But the story is very cheesy. The dice rolling wasn't great. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk smack about it because the people there that might love this, nostalgia hits all the nostalgia buttons. Great with family. I had a friend of mine who's like, oh, I played this with my 2 kids and they could not stop. We had to play all 5 chapters. And
yeah, well, there's a reason they're selling it at Target. I mean, it is targeting. That's what it's targeting. It's not necessarily just for us. It is for families. All right, so that brings us to the 4th game, and this is probably the biggest and I guess most complicated. It's not particularly complicated, but there's a lot going on here. And that's Detective, a modern crime board game from Portal Games.
This is their big GenCon release. This was it.
This was the big one. This is the one they sold out of. I managed to get a copy and have had a chance to play it several times. Now, have you played it yet?
I have not. I'm not a big case solver. You know,
okay.
I don't know. Like, I mean, I'll play it because of the experience of it, but like, especially you go ahead and explain it. I'll tell you what my barrier with it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. Like, I'm not typically. I like this kind of stuff. I like the Sherlock Holmes stuff. I was surprised when I liked the Sherlock Holmes stuff. Not because I don't like that kind of thing. I love mysteries. I love thrillers. It's that they're so frequently poorly done. So it's difficult, I think, to make something like this that's good. So despite the early good reviews, despite how interesting this looks.
I'm interested in that. When something like that goes wrong, what do you think usually goes wrong?
What a good question. I think it's when people try to get too clever for their own good, where they're, red herrings become an issue, or they hide tiny little details that have like, well, if you'd seen this and then connected it with it, like, it needs to be organic. It needs to feel organic. Like, these are the kinds of things that you would have experienced or seen in real life as a detective, not just like, I'm trying to trick you. And that's when they're good versus when they're bad. And I think a lot of the Sherlock Holmes stuff does it right, and doesn't feel like it's trying to trick you. A couple of them do fall into that territory, including, I'm thinking of one of the new ones in particular, but most of them are good. So with that in mind, let's talk about this new one, Detective. This game is, the big buzz around this originally was, you can get online and look stuff up. It's this digital interaction, and that is a big part of the game. You have to use a computer to play this. There is no way not to use it. If you're one of those people who's like, nope, no technology in board games, then this is probably not a game for you. There's no way around it, unfortunately. When you start up the game, you're going to be creating an account on their website, the Antares database, and it's a legit website. You're creating an account, you'll log in, you'll be looking up suspects, witnesses, documentation, fingerprints, all sorts of stuff. There are 5 cases that come in the box, and you're going to start up with the first case, and it's going to kind of guide you through how to get going, how to start with the database, how to actually play the game. The game rules themselves are fairly slim. I was a little nervous at first because when I pulled this stuff out of the box, it was the typical 20-page Portal rulebook with another book behind it, and I was like, not again, guys.
No! You are banned. You must make 10-page rulebooks.
Yeah, it's just seriously. But I watched the Watch It Played video, and it was only 19 minutes long, and it covered everything you need to know. So the rules are very light. All you need to know is you have a set number of days to work on a case. You have a set number of hours in every day in which you don't accumulate stress, just the work day, 8 to 4. And then you have different locations you can go on the board, and then a different amount of time it takes to go to these different locations. There's a deck of cards, and you're going to be following different leads. So the leads, at the beginning of every case, there's a case book. It tells you which leads you have to start with, gives you some backstory, a little bit to start with, and you can follow any of those leads. Some of them are cards in the deck. Usually when you pull a card from the deck as a lead, it uses up some amount of time because it will send you somewhere to do something. A lot of these lead cards will have ways to follow up. You can spend tokens. You can use special abilities from your investigators. If you're playing it solo, you have one investigator or more, up to you how many you want to have. But then every other investigator you don't use, you flip over, you get bonus tokens as consultants. So it balances everything out depending on how you want to play it solo. It's entirely up to you. The database itself doesn't use up any time when you look stuff up. And frequently there'll be things that say, look up this name or look up location or look up this file. And you can go and look at all that information. The game strongly, strongly recommends that you write down as much as you can. So like pen and paper, get a notebook out, take notes. There's a lot of different things that you're going to pick up on or find as you move throughout these different cases that you think you're going to remember, but then you get to the end of the case and you have this big pile of cards and you've gone through like 30 entries on the database and you're like, wait a second. How did that guy know this guy? And you can dig back through everything, but it's just going to take, that much longer. So I recommend you follow the advice and take some notes. But overall, most of the game is legitimately following leads, looking stuff up. The internet part of this is occasionally you'll find something underlined with a little Wi-Fi icon next to it. That's telling you are now allowed to go look this up. And it's not that you can't look anything else up. It just means those are real things. Like the location, this is a person, this is an event. Go look it up. We've used these real things in our mystery here. Here's some more context of what that is and why it's important. And it seems like it'd be just backstory-ish, but it is actually very useful to do that. I've got a couple of very important clues by looking things up and just going to the Wikipedia page and reading about, this particular unit or, it's really hard to get into any of this stuff without spoiling parts of it. So I'm being intentionally vague here, but it's pretty cool how it works. So overall, originally when this game was announced, I was not necessarily interested. I'll be honest, early reviews and early impressions by people that I respect were strong enough that I was like, okay, I'm going to pick this up. And I've been very, very impressed. It is just, I got it just kind of pulled into the story of everything. It's all in your head. You think, oh, it's like this abstracted, you're solving these crimes. It's more than that. There's a story here. There's characters here. There's people. You're getting to know them. And it's just interesting to kind of pull this stuff together and really feel like you're a detective solving a crime, because you're going to this database and you're looking at a card, and sure, there's constructs in the game of, oh, you have this card and you're allowed to do this. And if you want to do this extra thing, you have to spend this token. If you don't have the tokens to do that, you can't do it. Or if you want to take an extra action on day 3, you need to take stress tokens, and you can only take so many stress tokens before you lose the game. But at the same time, you can just suddenly be like, all right, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go check the database. I want to see what notes I had about this person, or if these fingerprints match this person we just talked to. And you can do those things, or you can not do those things. It's entirely up to you how you want to use the time you have available to you. Once you finish all of this and you get to the end of the days that you're allotted, like the first case, for example, they give you 4 days. And then when you're done, you have to write a final report. And the way the final report works is you go in and you solve a series of multiple choice questions. So if you ever played Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, it's kind of like that booklet at the back asking you, what did you think? Did you solve this thing? Do you know everything you're supposed to know? You get scored out of 40 points. They're not asking you 40 questions. I don't really know how the math works on this, but you have to answer all these questions. And when I went through it, I felt very confident like the first couple times, and realized immediately, I'm like, I missed a whole bunch of stuff, and I don't know how I missed it, but clearly I didn't spend enough time researching, because I think I ended up that first time through like 19 out of the 40. There's also a bonus section at the end of that where they ask you some additional questions that might matter in later cases. So things you just observed or interacted with or came across as you went through. Very, very cool. I like the through line. It's essentially a campaign game, and you can replay stuff. I don't know that once you're completed if you're going to want to, because you're going to know more information, unless you do a really poor job on a case and want to replay it. I don't know that you're necessarily going to want to go back through it, but it is well worth playing. If you have any interest in any type of game like this, deduction, storytelling, just getting into a thriller or a mystery and just being part of it, this is definitely a game worth checking out. If those things give you a headache and you don't enjoy it, or if you just are 100% against technology in your board games, caution be there. So
yeah. So my big thing about these case solving games is the theme. Okay, so we should probably define theme. Like we've been talking about theme. The whole episode is about theme, games that tell stories. When I say theme, I'm not just talking about like style. I think, a game like Spy Club or games that people talk about as having a lot of theme really have a lot of style. Like they have a veneer of that's cool and that's appealing and that's fun, and that if you want to, you can kind of impute your own story. So, I am this and I am that and I'm doing all this and I'm doing all that. But like when it comes to the mechanical experience of the game, it's very kind of separate from it. I always think of a game like Above and Below, where the above part is a Euro game and the below part is a story, and never the twain shall meet. It's a very two different parallel experiences. So when I talk about like a thematic game, I'm thinking about a game that just like the mechanisms and everything else just, gives me that immersive quality where I feel like I'm following a story. Case solving tends not to do that. Sherlock Holmes doesn't, the consulting detective doesn't tend to do that. Like it's very dry solving a case. It's good. But it doesn't give me that immersive feel. It sounds like detective kind of goes that extra step and gives you that immersion.
Yes. Sherlock Holmes have to be in the right mood for it to play, because you are not playing a game so much as reading a book and trying to figure it out, which we all do when we read mysteries or watch a movie like that. You're like, I think I figured it out. And that's kind of what you're doing in that. This, you are legit becoming a detective and going through and trying to solve this case. And they give you everything you need to do that. But the number of rules, the number of mechanisms that kind of guide you down a certain path are relatively limited. Like it has kind of that feel of like a choose your own adventure type of thing. Like you get to the end of a card and it's like, you can follow these leads, but you don't have to. You can be like, no, I'm not going to waste time on these leads because I think this lead's more important. You have limited time, so you have to choose. On your sheet of paper, you might have 10 leads listed and you only have 9 hours left before you run out of time and need to write your report. And you're like, I could do 3 of these maybe if I'm lucky. So which ones do I think are going to be most useful? based on what we're doing or how much information we want to pull back up. It legit feels like you're going through and solving a case. And it was much more engaging than I expected. The game is long because of that. I think the box says something crazy like 2 to 3 hours. And that's probably right, because if you just rushed through this and knocked out, hour after hour after hour, you could probably play it in an hour, hour and a half. But then you're going to miss all this stuff, not be writing stuff down, not be discussing it. It's when you play with other people, there is only one game turn, so you don't take turns at all. You just kind of discuss and decide what you want to do. So playing it solo is no different at all, except you don't have other people to help you. So that is something to keep in mind. If you do play this by yourself or a smaller player count, it's a little bit harder because it's just you going through stuff. It's like playing an exit game by yourself. Mm-hmm. You can, but it's harder. So,
well, it depends on who you are. You might be in a group where everybody's making it worse.
That's very true. That's very true. And
everybody's on their phones and you're trying to do stuff.
Yeah. I could easily see this turning into a 4 or 5 hour game if nobody's paying attention. Or there'll be that one person who, like in Time Stories, always does this. And you'll be like, okay, all right, we got to figure this out. Does anybody remember this? And someone's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. What thing? and you have to like recap everything that's happened because they were not paying attention for the last 20 minutes.
Exactly.
That could happen as well. And in this case, that would be frustrating. Although if you are taking notes, right. The game does recommend one person take notes, one person uses the database, one person manages the board. There are roles for people. But yeah, overall, I think in terms of theme, like I said, I'm not usually a theme guy. This one really, really captured me. Like I feel it. I love it. It just, I didn't think I'd like it as much as I do. And I don't know. It's hard to say. Like if they release new content for this, I will keep it around. But Portal Games doesn't always release content very quickly. So I guess we'll see. Right. I want new stuff for it, but it's going to be a matter of how quickly it comes. Because I think once it's done, once the 5 cases in the box are done, that'll be it for this particular set of stuff. And we'll see how long it takes for more to come out. Right.
So like this, so it sounds like what you're talking about is like the mechanisms itself evoke theme. And that's very different than a game like Spy Club. Spy Club, the mechanisms don't evoke any theme. The theme comes from the veneer, like the style of it. And it says at the rule book literally says at the end of it, and you have your 5 cards and you can tell a story off of those 5 cards. And with a kid, that's cool. But I mean, in terms of like, I'm a big time thematic game. You guys know that. And that's what I'm talking about. Is that both the style of the game and mechanisms of the game put me in there where I feel like, a dwarf swinging an axe, or I feel like a detective solving a crime, or whatever, all these other things that you do in games. Does that make sense though, Anthony? Like the way I'm conceiving of theme?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think I have a slightly different conceit, but I also know I'm not really a thematic gamer. So when a game captures me thematically, I'm always like surprised a little bit because it doesn't happen very often. So, you'll describe these games sometimes and I'll be like, I don't get it. I was bored. Like it's just, I need the mechanics to be there. In this case, the mechanics are the theme, which I think is rare, and I really, really like it. So, and I understand where you're coming from with like a Spy Club where that's not the case at all. I can overlook it because I don't really care about the theme as much, but if that's what you need, especially in that kind of game, then it isn't there.
All right. So that was 4 very thematic in their own ways, storytelling games that you can, I know I was kind of crapping on Spy Club a little bit. It's a good game, and it's good for kids. And I think I'm very conscious that I am bringing my own expectations to a game, but I think we all do in a sense. And I'm trying to represent people who they see a game and it's advertised as quote unquote thematic. And I think we have to be a little bit more specific about what that means. So a game like, the graphic novel adventures, I totally melted into those books. I mean, I was so engrossed. I mean, once I started, I just could not put it down because my headspace, I was that guy in Captive who my daughter got kidnapped, and not quite, but like I was with him. I was building my town or whatever it was. I never felt like I was in Spy Club. So I think people kind of vibe with that, and that's where I'm speaking from. That does not make it a bad game. I think all of these games we talked about are rock solid games for what they do.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too, because that's the reason people listen to us, is they know the kind of stuff we like, and somebody could easily listen to me and say like, oh, Spike Club sounds interesting, and then realize, oh, it's not actually thematic. So it's good that Jason also played it, because I generally play games more like Jason. Like, and that's one of those weird games that is in the middle, because like you said, it is kind of advertised as a thematic experience when it's really not. So,
or it's thematic in a different way. So it's thematic and not in the way that I'm in or I'm with this story, where it sounds like Detective is. That sounds like the perfect way to get me into a case solving game. You just made me really excited to play it.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't like this one, I don't think you'll like any case solving game.
Cool.
All right, guys, that is everything for this week's episode. If you have different opinions or thoughts or questions about any of these games we talked about, or have other examples that you can think of about thematic games or games that think they're thematic or that have a different kind of thematic twist to them, I want to talk about them, let us know in all the different places we hang out. On Twitter, at ENGN_podcast, on Facebook in the Every Night is Game Night group, or on our website, everynightisgamenight.com, where you can find all the episodes updated as they go up. But for this week, that's going to go ahead and be everything. So until next time, go ahead and grab a game off the shelf, and let's make every night game night.
Later, everybody.